I used to believe that the worst moment in a man's life was the second he realized his marriage was dying. Turns out that's wrong. The worst moment is when you discover it died months ago, and everyone else seems to have known except you. The night everything snapped, my wife, Ava, threw a massive celebration for her new corporate job. Our house looked like Pinterest vomited success. Balloons, champagne towers, fancy appetizers I didn't even know how to pronounce. My family was there, her coworkers, neighbors, even the smug guy from across the street who always found a reason to flex his new cars in front of me. It was supposed to be a happy night, but there was something disturbing in the air, like a storm hiding behind a clear sky. Ava stood in the center of the living room, laughing too loudly, touching people's arms too freely, especially Michael, her new boss, tall, annoyingly confident, with that grin that said he believed he deserved every woman in the room. I tried ignoring the way Ava practically glowed around him. I told myself I was being paranoid. Husbands shouldn't get jealous of shadows. But the shadows were real. Then came the toast. My father, who never liked me enough to hide it, raised his glass and said, loud enough for every ear to snap toward him, "To the woman feeding our loser son." The crowd laughed. Not awkwardly, not nervously, no. They laughed like it was the funniest truth they'd ever heard. Ava didn't defend me. She didn't roll her eyes or say it was a joke. She smiled. She smiled like humiliation tasted sweet. My chest tightened. I stared at her, waiting, begging, for her to say something that would prove she was still on my side. Instead, she strutted over to me with Michael following behind like a trained dog. She handed me a tiny piece of cake, barely bigger than a breadcrumb. She leaned in, her voice dripping with poison disguised as silk. "Accept my cheating or leave." My brain shut down. My skin went cold. The room blurred. I didn't hear the music anymore, didn't see the people. All I could process were the words. Accept my cheating. Not deny, not explain, not defend. Accept. I looked at Michael. He didn't deny it either. He smirked, lifted his glass, and toasted like he'd already won. My wife, the woman I paid rent with, slept beside, trusted, said it like she was giving me a menu option. Like betrayal was a lifestyle I needed to subscribe to. Ava didn't stop there. "Oh no," she twisted the knife. "You're lucky anyone wants you," she whispered, loud enough for a few guests to hear. "Michael gives me excitement. You give me dishes and excuses." The guests chuckled. Some looked away, pretending they weren't enjoying the show. My mother closed her eyes like she'd been expecting this for years. My father clapped Michael on the back as if passing ownership. I stood there like an unpaid extra in my own life. Ava lifted her phone and took a selfie with Michael. At our party, in our home, while standing next to me, I felt something inside me fracture. Not slowly, not gently, but like glass under a hammer. And the sickest part? She didn't even try to hide it. She wanted me to see it. She wanted me broken, silent, obedient. Every laugh, every smug grin, every whisper in the room became a bullet. And in that moment I realized something horrible. My wife didn't respect me. My family didn't value me. I was the punchline in a script I never agreed to read. And Ava? She wasn't sorry. She was proud. She turned back to the crowd, lifted her glass, and said, "A real woman deserves options." They cheered. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't explode. Something colder took over. A clarity I didn't know I possessed. I excused myself, walked upstairs, and stared at our reflection in the mirror. Ava's lipstick stain still on my cheek like a brand marking me as property she no longer wanted. That night, something in me died. But something else awakened. A version of me Ava never expected. A version that wasn't going to swallow betrayal like medicine. I didn't leave that night, but I started planning the moment I'd walk out. Not quietly, not ashamed, but in a way she would never forget. Because if Ava thought humiliation was a game, she had no idea who she had just taught the rules to. The real story didn't start when she cheated. It started when she bragged about it. The morning after that humiliating party, I woke up feeling like my bones weren't mine anymore. Like something had burrowed into me and rearranged the person I used to be. Ava wasn't beside me. Her side of the bed looked untouched, perfectly made, like she hadn't slept here at all. Maybe she hadn't. I went downstairs and found crumbs, empty glasses, and her perfume lingering in the air like poison. My head throbbed, not from alcohol. I didn't drink last night, but from shock. My brain kept replaying her words. Accept my cheating or leave. I kept trying to rationalize it. Maybe she was drunk. Maybe it was a sick joke. Maybe I misunderstood. But lies don't hide forever. They crawl out when the light hits them. Ava didn't come home until noon. She strutted in like nothing was wrong. Still in the same outfit, hair messy, eyeliner smudged. Not tired, not guilty, satisfied. She tossed her purse onto the couch and said, "You're still here? Thought you'd run off crying to your mommy." Her voice was sweetened smugness. No remorse. No attempt to fix anything. I stared at her, unable to speak. She rolled her eyes. "Ethan, don't look at me like that. You knew deep down you weren't enough for me. You should be grateful someone like me even stayed as long as I did." Something snapped. Gratitude? For being betrayed? She went upstairs. I stayed frozen until her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Normally, I respected privacy. But respect is a currency, and she spent hers long ago. The screen lit up with a name I recognized. Michael. Speech balloon last night was wild. Round 2 tonight? My lungs collapsed. But curiosity, or maybe masochism, made me pick up the phone. No password. Of course not. Why hide something she was proud of? Her messages read like a confession written in neon. Threads with Michael. Timestamps aligned with late nights she claimed were work meetings. Voice notes where she giggled like a teenager discovering rebellion. Photos of hotel rooms, dinners, and the two of them together, smiling the way she never smiled at me. But the message that killed me wasn't romantic. It was strategic. "Ava, he's weak. I'll push him until he breaks. I want him out." Weak. Ava had been preparing my exit like a business plan. She wasn't cheating because she fell in love. She was cheating because she wanted a new life and wanted me to leave so she wouldn't look like the villain. Too late. She already was. A buzzing sound jolted me back. Another message. "Michael, once he's gone, we'll take the next step." My blood turned to ice. Next step? What step? Move in together? Replace me? Or something worse? I put the phone down, feeling nauseous. I thought betrayal was a moment. It wasn't. It was a slow, strategic assassination of trust. Ava came downstairs, saw me near her phone, and smirked. Found something interesting? She didn't panic. Not a flicker of fear. She folded her arms like she was daring me to react. "It's not cheating if I don't care about what you think," she said. "I'm done living a boring life. Michael makes me feel alive. You make me feel stuck." Her words were acid. But what stunned me most wasn't the cruelty. It was the confidence. Ava wasn't apologizing. She was justifying. Something inside me shifted. My hurt didn't disappear, but it hardened into resolve. I realized then, Ava didn't break me at the party. She sharpened me. She turned me into someone who wouldn't beg. She thought she controlled the board. She had no idea I was about to flip it, because betrayal isn't an ending. Sometimes, it's the beginning of a man who stops being afraid to burn bridges, especially ones that lead back to hell. By the time evening rolled in, I wasn't the same man who stood quietly at that party. My fear had evaporated, burned out like gasoline struck by lightning. All that remained was clarity, and a fury so cold it felt surgical. Ava sat on the couch scrolling through her phone like she hadn't just detonated my life hours earlier. She didn't look scared. She didn't look ashamed. She looked annoyed, as if my very presence in the house ruined her vibe. I stepped into the living room and said, calmly, too calmly, "We need to talk." She didn't look up. "No, Ethan. You need to listen. I've been carrying this marriage long enough. If you want to stay, then stop whining and accept reality. I get attention, I get passion, I get freedom. You get me showing up. That's more than you deserve." Her voice was steady, practiced. She had rehearsed these words like lines in a performance she expected applause for. I sat down across from her, the phone I had investigated earlier in my hand. I placed it gently on the table. Her eyes flickered for half a second. Then she smirked. "Oh, so you went through my phone?" Goo. I expected excuses, tears, denial, something human. Instead, she crossed her legs, looked straight at me, and smiled like a wolf. "Let me make this simple," she said, leaning forward. "Michael gives me what you never could. Excitement. Challenge. He worships me. You're like a blanket, warm, predictable, suffocating when I don't want it." I clenched my fists, but I didn't raise my voice. I wanted her words to hang in the air long enough for her to suffocate on them. "So that toast last night?" I asked quietly. "You let my family humiliate me." She shrugged. "Ethan, don't be dramatic. It was funny. People love jokes. And come on, you are a bit of a loser. I married potential. Turns out you never climbed out of it." I felt the punch, but I didn't flinch. "And Michael?" I asked. "He's your finish line?" Ava chuckled. "He's my upgrade." Her cruelty wasn't reckless. It was intentional. Every sentence was a sharp blade slicing away pieces of the person she once pretended to love. She wanted me broken enough to walk away without a fight. But she didn't know I'd already crossed a line. There was no going back. "You know what's funny, Ava?" I finally said. "You think you've already won. You think I'm the one losing something." Her smile faded, just a shade. I took her phone, unlocked it, and opened the messages, the ones where she called me weak, pathetic, easy to push out. I held it up like evidence in court. Ava's expression went still. Not guilty, not shaken, just irritated. "Are we really doing this?" she sighed. "Ethan, I told you the rules. Stay quiet, stay married, and stop acting like you matter in decisions I make. You're background furniture. Comfortable when needed, invisible the rest of the time." There it was. The truth. Not whispered, not hidden, served raw. But instead of burning me alive, her words built something inside me. An armor I never had before. "You're right," I replied. She blinked. "What?" I stood up. "I don't matter to you. But I finally realized, you don't matter to me either." Her face cracked. Finally, a reaction she hadn't rehearsed. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I simply walked to the bedroom, grabbed a bag, and tossed clothes into it. She followed, voice rising like boiling water. "Oh, you're leaving?" Finally growing a spine. I zipped the bag. "No," I said. "I'm taking back the one you tried to snap." Ava didn't understand yet. Not then, that when a quiet man finally stops talking, it's not silence. It's a warning. I walked out of that room knowing the war had officially begun. Not with fists, not with chaos, but with the terrifying calm of a man who no longer fears losing something already gone. I always thought leaving someone was dramatic. Slamming doors, shouting matches, the kind of chaos neighbors gossip about for months. But when a man finally breaks, he doesn't explode. He evaporates. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't tell Ava where I was going. I just packed what I needed and walked out of the house like a ghost abandoning a corpse. My legs moved on instinct, powered by something primal and silent, survival. The air outside felt cold but clean. Every breath tasted like freedom and poison at the same time. It was past midnight, streetlights flickering as if unsure whether to stay awake or give up. I didn't have a destination. I only knew one truth. Anywhere without Ava was home. I drove to my friend Ryan's place. A guy who never asked questions unless the answers mattered. When he opened the door and saw the look on my face, he didn't say a word. He stepped aside, let me in, and handed me a beer. That's friendship. Conversations spoken in silence. After a few minutes, he broke it. "She did something, didn't she?" I laughed, but it came out cracked. "Something? Try a performance." She tossed her betrayal on the table like dessert and asked if I wanted a bite. Ryan cursed under his breath. He always hated Ava. Said she smiled like someone who practiced it in front of a mirror to make sure it didn't scare people. I always defended her. Now I wondered if he'd seen the monster before I did. I told him everything. The toast. The phone messages. Her smug rules. The way she called me a loser while my own family cheered. Ryan leaned back, shaking his head. Ethan, she doesn't want a husband. She wants an audience. That sentence sat in my chest like a truth I should have known long ago. I didn't sleep that night. My phone buzzed, again and again. At first, I ignored it, until the buzzing turned into a manic storm of notifications. 37 messages, 64 messages, 101 messages. By morning, it was 150. Ava's name lit up every corner of the screen. Where are you? Answer me. Are you seriously doing this? Come back. Now. Don't be dramatic. Ethan, we need to talk like adults. Stop ignoring me. Some messages were soft, almost tender, like bait. Others were acidic threats dipped in entitlement. The woman who told me to accept her cheating suddenly couldn't accept my absence. And that told me everything I needed to know. Ava didn't want me. She wanted control. My silence was cutting her in ways my voice never could. Around noon, she sent a message that made my blood freeze. If you leave, everyone will know you're unstable. I'll make sure of it. Funny. She wanted me gone, yet threatened to destroy me for leaving. That's when I realized Ava didn't just break vows. She rewrote the definition of loyalty to suit her mood. Ryan looked over my shoulder and whistled. She's spiraling. I shrugged. Good. He smirked. What's your plan? For the first time in 24 hours, I smiled. Not a happy smile, something colder, sharper. To stop being the guy everyone steps on. If Ava wants a villain, I'll show her how a real one thinks. He nodded like he'd been waiting years to hear me say that. But the truth is, I didn't feel like a villain. I felt reborn. Ava taught me that love without respect is a leash, and I'd been walking myself like a pet. Now, I was done licking hands that slapped me. As I turned off my phone, I felt a peace I hadn't felt in years. Not because I escaped, because she finally realized she couldn't own me anymore. And somewhere in that house, dripping with her arrogance, Ava Cole was learning the most painful lesson of her life. A man may tolerate betrayal, but he will not forgive indifference. By the second day of my disappearance, Ava had transformed from an arrogant queen into something desperate, feral, and unhinged. Her messages no longer sounded like demands. They were confessions disguised as threats. The woman who told me to accept her cheating or leave now begged for the very stability she once mocked. It was almost poetic. I sat at Ryan's kitchen table scrolling through the hurricane of notifications, each one cracking the mask she used to wear. Ethan, be reasonable. We can fix this. Don't throw away our life. I didn't mean what I said. Michael wasn't serious. You misunderstood everything. Lies. All of them. Not even talented lies. Sloppy attempts stitched together by panic. Ava wasn't apologizing because she cared. She was panicking because she never considered a world where I stopped existing on command. Ryan leaned over my shoulder and laughed. She's not sorry. She's scared. I nodded. Ava doesn't mourn losing people. She mourns losing power. And then, at 2:19 p.m., a new message appeared. One that froze my pulse mid-beat. Your mother called. She's worried. Tell her you're okay or I will. Ava using my family as leverage was a line she should have never crossed. She humiliated me in front of them without blinking. But now she wanted to weaponize them to reel me back? That wasn't concern, that was chess. I didn't respond. Silence wasn't just revenge anymore. It was discipline. 2 hours later, another message appeared. Michael says this is childish. He never wanted drama. He feels bad. I snorted. The man who smirked at my humiliation suddenly felt bad? No. What he felt was exposure. Without me in the house, their illicit little kingdom wasn't a rebellion anymore. It was just two selfish people who now had to face each other without a prop. Still, I said nothing. Ava wasn't used to losing the last word. My silence was a mirror she couldn't bear to look into. Then came the message that flipped the entire game. If you don't come home, I'll tell everyone you hit me. Felt like the ground dropped beneath me. Ryan's jaw clenched so hard I thought he'd crack a tooth. That's not just manipulation, he growled. That's nuclear. I stared at the screen, not blinking. Ava wasn't bluffing. She was escalating. A false accusation wasn't a threat. It was a weapon. But here's the twist she didn't expect. I had already documented everything. Screenshots, timestamps, voice messages, her admissions, her arrogance, her mockery, her demands. Ava taught me how cruel she could be, so I learned quickly how to turn her cruelty into proof. I texted one sentence, the first words I'd sent her since leaving. Say it again in writing. The typing bubbles appeared instantly. She was eager, reckless, cornered. She thought she could scare me into returning by fabricating a crime. She typed, "If you don't come home, I'll tell everyone you hit." And then she stopped. She realized what she had just done. The bubbles vanished. No message sent. Ryan grinned. She just caught herself. Ava wasn't dealing with the same man she humiliated. Silence had forged something new, something sharp. 5 minutes later, a new message arrived. "We need to discuss this face to face. No threats, no insults, just fear. Not fear of losing me, fear of losing control." Ava finally understood something she never expected. I wasn't her prisoner anymore, and she wasn't the warden. She was just a woman with a crumbling throne, staring at the ruins of the empire she built on disrespect. As the sun set outside Ryan's window, I felt something shift in me. Not anger, not revenge, but purpose. Ava tried to bury me. Instead, she planted something she couldn't kill. A man who finally saw her not as a wife, but as the obstacle he was born to overcome. I wasn't planning to go back to that house so soon. Not because I feared Ava, but because I enjoyed watching her unravel without my permission. But when someone threatens your entire identity, you don't ignore it. You confront it. On your terms. Ryan handed me my keys while shaking his head. "You sure you want to face her?" I smirked. "I'm not facing her. I'm documenting the collapse." I wasn't going back as a husband. I was going back as a witness to her downfall. The drive home felt surreal. The streets looked the same, but the man behind the wheel wasn't. The doormat she once stepped over had turned into steel. And Ava had no idea. When I arrived, her car was in the driveway. The house lights were on. Curtains cracked open as if she'd been pacing, waiting, rehearsing. Ava didn't expect me. She needed me. I walked in without knocking. Ava appeared from the living room like she'd been summoned. Not a wife greeting her husband, but a predator sensing an intruder in her territory. Her face was a mess of nerves and calculation. She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. "Ethan, you came back." The tone was wrong. It wasn't relief, it was disbelief. Like she couldn't fathom someone choosing not to orbit her. I nodded once and sat down, calm, unmoved. She hovered a moment before sitting across from me, legs crossed, chin tilted, posture of a queen whose throne was made of cardboard. "We need to talk," she began. I didn't interrupt. I wanted her lies on record. Ava exhaled dramatically, pressing her hand to her chest like a woman auditioning for sympathy. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was stressed. I exaggerated. Michael was just a distraction. You were distant. You made me feel unseen. I needed attention." There it was, the apology that wasn't an apology. Ava didn't regret what she did. She regretted the consequences. I remained silent. Silence made her frantic. She stood up, pacing. "You think you're innocent? You don't appreciate me, Ethan. You don't challenge me." Michael did. He made me feel wanted, admired. She almost said alive, the word she used before. She caught herself. Her eyes snapped toward me, desperate. "But I wanted you to fight for me." I laughed, but it wasn't humor, it was clarity. Fight for what? A woman who treats loyalty like a burden. Ava's calm shattered. "Stop acting like some hero. I could ruin you if I wanted." Her voice broke, cracked like a porcelain mask under heat. I leaned back. "You already tried, and failed." She froze. She knew. She finally understood that her threats meant nothing now. I had proof, screenshots, audio, dates. Her reputation dangled by a thread. She herself nodded. Ava approached slowly, lowering her voice as if tenderness could erase venom. "Ethan, we can still fix this. We can pretend none of this happened. I'll stop seeing Michael." She said his name like a stain she couldn't remove. I looked at her, not with anger, but recognition. This wasn't love. This was dependency on attention, on power, on domination. She didn't want a husband. She wanted a mirror that reflected her fantasies without distortion. I stood up. Ava grabbed my arm. "Don't leave again." Her grip wasn't affectionate, it was territorial. I pulled away. "Ava, I didn't come back to stay. I came back to see if you'd lie to my face one more time." Her eyes widened, horror dawning like sunrise over ruins. "You're choosing to walk away?" I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply spoke the truth she never believed I'd say. "I'm choosing myself." Ava staggered backward like I'd struck her, because for the first time in our marriage, my silence didn't protect her ego. It destroyed it. Her voice trembled. Not from sadness, but from losing a power she thought was eternal. "Ethan, what am I supposed to tell people?" I shrugged. "Tell them the truth, if you remember how." And as I walked past her, I realized something. Ava didn't fear being alone. She feared being irrelevant. Leaving Ava standing in that living room was the first real victory of my life. Not because I escaped her, but because she finally saw a version of me that wasn't begging for validation. For years, she fed off my silence, twisted my patience into weakness, mistook loyalty for dependence. Now, without me to anchor her ego, she was adrift, clawing for control that no longer existed. I drove back to Ryan's place expecting relief. Instead, I felt something sharper, clarity. Betrayal doesn't end when you leave. It lingers like smoke after a fire, reminding you of everything that burned. Ryan took one look at me and handed me a beer without speaking. It was our ritual now, words optional, understanding inevitable. "So," he asked eventually, "did she break?" I nodded. She tried to flip reality as usual. "But she's not dealing with the same man anymore." Ryan smirked. "Good. She deserves to choke on her own lies." I should have felt triumphant. Instead, something gnawed at me. The realization that Ava wasn't done. People like her don't accept consequences. They mutate. I didn't have to wait long. My phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't messages. It was missed calls. Dozens. Then voicemails. Her voice ranged from seductive to hysterical. Each message a desperate attempt to regain the narrative. Voicemail number 1. "Ethan, baby, we can talk. You're overreacting." Voicemail number 4. "If you don't answer, I swear I'll make you regret this." Voicemail number 9. "Michael wasn't serious. I only let it happen because you never paid attention to me." Voicemail number 13. "Don't abandon me like this. You can't just leave." The irony tasted sweet. She, the architect of abandonment, crying over being abandoned. But voicemail number 17 was different. "People are asking questions. I need you to come home and act normal. Do not embarrass me." There it was, Ava's true religion. Appearance. She didn't want a marriage. She wanted a performance. And I had walked off stage mid-scene. Ryan listened to a few messages and whistled. "She's unraveling." I exhaled. "No. She's preparing to escalate." Because narcissists don't lose battles, they rewrite history. And right on cue, the next message confirmed it. "If you don't come home, people will think you're unstable. I'll tell them you're having a breakdown." Not once did she say she missed me. Not once did she mention love. Only image, control, leverage. She wasn't mourning me. She was mourning the audience she lost. That night, Ryan and I sat outside, the cold air thick with decisions I hadn't made yet. He turned to me and said something I didn't expect. "You know, Ethan, you're not healing from a breakup. You're detoxing from a poison." It hit harder than any insult Ava ever threw at me. I wasn't sad because I lost her. I was sad because I let someone like her define my worth for so long. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This time short. "You have until tomorrow. Decide." She still believed she was issuing commands. I finally replied, My decision was made the moment you chose someone else. No threats, no emotion, just truth, the one thing she never respected. Within minutes, she called. I declined. She called again and again. Her desperation wasn't romantic, it was territorial. Ava didn't want me back. She wanted control restored. But something shifted that night. Not in her, but in me. I no longer feared her reaction. I anticipated it. Because men like me don't stay broken forever. Once we stand, we don't kneel again. Ava had unleashed a version of me she couldn't manipulate. A version she couldn't silence. A version she couldn't own. And now the final act was approaching. Not a confrontation. A conclusion. One she would never control. Dawn always arrives quietly, but that morning felt different. The light didn't just fill the room. It illuminated every truth I had refused to see for years. Ava wasn't a partner, a wife, or even a mistake. She was a lesson written in scars I didn't know I was collecting. And today, that lesson would end. I drove to the house one last time, not to reconcile, not to argue, but to close the chapter she thought she owned. My heart wasn't racing. My hands didn't shake. There was no anger left. Only purpose. When I walked in, Ava was standing in the hallway like she'd been waiting all night. Her hair was a mess, mascara smudged, eyes sharp with a mix of hope and panic. She looked less like a queen and more like someone who just realized the castle was rented. Not hers. She opened her mouth before I could speak. Ethan, thank God. Let's talk like adults. We can fix this. Her voice tried to be soft, but desperation leaked through every syllable. She stepped closer, reaching for my arm, but I moved past her and sat down. She hated that, being ignored. It wasn't rejection she feared. It was irrelevance. She positioned herself across from me, inhaled, and unleashed her performance. I was overwhelmed. I didn't feel appreciated. Michael was just attention. I never planned to leave you. I just wanted to shake you up. Shake me up. Betrayal repackaged as motivation. Lies wearing perfume. I let her finish. She mistook my silence for surrender. So? She asked, smiling with shaky confidence. We start fresh. I leaned in. Ava, this isn't about starting over. This is about admitting what happened. Her smile twitched. I admitted it. I said I was wrong. I shook my head. No, you admitted inconvenience, not guilt. Her eyes sharpened. What do you want? An apology scroll? Blood? No, I want the truth. She scoffed. Truth is subjective. There it was, the core of her existence. Facts were decor. Reality was clay. I pulled out the folder I brought, printed screenshots, messages, recordings, evidence she never dreamed I'd collect. Ava's face drained of color. What is this? Everything you thought I was too weak to remember. She grabbed the papers, shredded them, as if tearing documents erased actions. You think anyone cares about your little archive? She snapped. I can say you're unstable. People will believe me. This time I smiled. Not the smile she knew, but one that belonged to someone she didn't create. They won't. I slid my phone onto the table, a recording already playing. Ava's voice, cold and clear. Accept my cheating or leave. Her face cracked. Shock, fear, then rage. You recorded me? You taught me to. She stepped back, as if the truth physically shoved her. You planned this, she whispered. I stood. No. You scripted it. I just stopped playing my assigned role. Her composure shattered. You can't leave me. You can't make me look like the bad guy. I walked toward the door. Ava, you don't look like the bad guy. I paused. You are. Her scream chased me but couldn't catch me. Not this time. Outside, the air felt cleaner than I remembered. Freedom wasn't loud. It was silent, steady, and terrifying. Like stepping onto a road with no signs, no map, no prison. Ryan once said betrayal was poison. He was wrong. Betrayal is surgery. Cuts away illusions and leaves only what's real. I didn't lose a marriage. I escaped a cage made from vows she never honored. I don't hate Ava. Hate implies attachment. What I feel now is nothing, and nothing is powerful. Nothing is peace. My final advice? Never confuse loyalty with self-sacrifice. Never let someone treat your love like currency. And never fear losing someone who never valued finding you. Ava didn't break me. She introduced me to myself. And that was the one gift she never meant to give.